Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're looking at how a literal 700-kilogram livestock animal completely hijacked the global news cycle. We're going to unpack what looks like just a quirky internet coincidence on the surface, but actually reveals a deeply fascinating look at digital culture, viral transmission, and the underlying economics of our attention. We are talking, of course, about the bizarre case of the viral Donald Trump buffalo. Here's the roadmap for today. Number 1, the viral Trump buffalo. 2. Memes as mind viruses. 3. Gen Z and globalization. 4. The anatomy of contagion. And finally, number 5. The algorithmic illusion. Let's get into it. Section 1. The viral Trump buffalo. To start things off, we really have to set the scene. We're at the Rabeya Agro Farm in Bangladesh, and it's just ahead of the Islamic festival of Eid al-Adha. Now, I want you to ask yourself, how in the world does a pink albino water buffalo from a farm just outside Taka become an overnight viral sensation covered by literally everyone from Reuters all the way to Iranian state media? I mean, it sounds like the setup to a punchline, right? But crowds actually flooded international feeds with selfies featuring this animal. And this slide brilliantly illustrates the hook. It started when the farm owner's brother jokingly named 2 very different buffaloes after polarizing political figures. The first one, a 700-kilo albino buffalo with this little tuft of golden hair, was dubbed Donald Trump. And what's funny is farmhands described this specific animal as exceptionally calm, peaceful, and polite. Meanwhile, you've got another buffalo, larger, darker, weighing over 750 kilos, known for charging and snorting, and they named that one after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Just like that, they created this hyper-local meme that was instantly primed and ready for global export. And we can see exactly how fast this raw material gets repurposed. Amid rising geopolitical tensions, Iranian state media operating out of Russia actually jumped on a local rumor. The rumor was that the calm, blonde buffalo had lost its appetite because of all the massive crowds. So they used this narrative to openly mock the US president online. Think about that for a second. A joke between farmhands in Narayanganj was weaponized by a nation-state on a massive global platform in a matter of days. Absolutely wild. Moving on to Section 2, memes as mind viruses. So, the big question is, why did this specific oddity go viral when millions of other funny animal videos barely get a single view? Well, we found this incredibly fascinating recent paper by researcher Mushtaq Ahmed that zeroes in on this exact phenomenon in Bangladesh. He analyzes how social media memes function as far more than just quick jokes. They're actually highly effective cognitive vehicles. Ahmed actually describes these memes as viruses of the mind. In our digital age, memes operate as cultural viruses. You see, they don't just spread because a lot of people happen to look at them. They replicate through peer-to-peer imitation and, crucially, deep emotional engagement. They completely bypass traditional media gatekeepers, and they thrive on irony, humor, and shared cultural references to essentially embed themselves right into our consciousness. Which brings us to Section 3, Gen Z and globalization. The absolute engine driving this particular contagion? Generation Z in Bangladesh. They are digitally native and they use humor to navigate complex social realities through a process called glocalization. It's this brilliant process where young internet users grab a global template, like, say, a highly recognizable Western politician, and they fuse it with very specific local meaning. It's basically the ultimate cultural remix, and it is the secret sauce for why this buffalo meme was completely unstoppable. Gen Z didn't just share a random picture of an animal. No, they infused the viral buffalo with Bangla captions. They tied it directly to the cultural touchstone of the upcoming Eid Qurbani sacrifices. They layered on youth subcultural humor, and they mapped global faces onto their own everyday local frustrations. By doing all of this, they completely transformed a quirky global news item into powerful social currency. It built in-group solidarity. It wasn't just a funny picture anymore. It became a Bangladeshi Gen Z inside joke that the entire world accidentally participated in. Section 4, the anatomy of contagion. Let's break down the exact anatomy of how a cultural contagion like this successfully infects a network, because honestly, virality is rarely a pure accident. To explain this entire ecology, researcher Mushtaq Ahmed proposes what he calls the Gen Z mimetic transmission model, or GMTM for short. It gives us a really solid framework to understand exactly how a meme mutates and then totally takes over a network. The model basically shows that virality is a non-linear interaction of 5 distinct domains. First, you need available templates, like our buffalo. Second, a network structure with bridge nodes. These are those highly connected users who spread the joke across entirely different online communities. Third, semiotic context, so the language and meaning, exactly like we just discussed with globalization. Fourth, psychological drivers, things like outrage, humor, or identity signaling. And finally, number 5, platform affordances, the actual tools built into the algorithm that make remixing and sharing totally frictionless. When you get all 5 of those aligning, boom, the contagion explodes. And here's where things get really serious. What starts off as organic humor, a funny joke shared locally between friends on a farm, rapidly transforms into a cognitive contagion. When you introduce high emotional arousal and heavy irony, these memes can actively obscure facts. They completely bypass our rational evaluation to reinforce our own worldview alignments. That is exactly why a water buffalo can suddenly be utilized as a geopolitical talking point. The actual facts of the animal don't even matter. Only the emotional payload it carries matters. Section 5. The algorithmic illusion. For our final layer here, we really need to pull the curtain back and look at the cynical, profit-driven reality of the social platforms themselves. Tech-savvy intermediaries out there understand exactly how to trigger something called political pareidolia. That's the psychological tendency we all have to perceive meaningful images, particularly the faces of polarizing figures, in totally random visual patterns. By finding a water buffalo with a specific hair growth pattern and a flat facial plane, content creators are actively, intentionally hijacking our evolutionary survival instincts. Media analyst Joseph Barnes hits the nail right on the head here. He points out that to even call this a resemblance is quite a stretch. The real manipulation is happening through incredibly specific camera angles, selective editing, and lighting that's totally designed to emphasize patterns that just disappear if you look from any other perspective. So yeah, the animal is real, but the context is an entirely engineered illusion. It's essentially analog manipulation tailored for a digital audience. And once that perfectly framed image gets uploaded, it sets off this completely predictable engineered timeline. Within minute 1, satirists share it to mock the politicians. By minute 15, political loyalists jump into the comments to defend their side or attack the creators. By minute 30, the skeptics join the fray to argue about whether the image is photoshopped. And by minute 60, the platform's algorithms see this massive spike in comments and dwell time, and they push the content to millions of more feeds, all to artificially farm ad revenues straight out of our hardwired political tribalism. I want you to consider the raw economics of this for just a moment. That famous albino buffalo was sold to a local trader for roughly 385,000 Bangladeshi Taka. That's about $3,200 for the Eid festival. And hey, locally, that is a substantial sum. But to put it in perspective, it is an absolute fraction of the programmatic ad revenue generated globally by intermediaries, digital arbitrage networks, and social media platforms who are all just exploiting a 30-second clip of that exact same animal. So, what's the big takeaway here? The next time a bizarre or politically adjacent trend lands right in your feed, stop looking at the funny animal. Take a step back and start looking at the massive machinery trying to steal your attention. The real joke isn't that a buffalo looks like a politician. It's that the internet convinced you it mattered. The real question we should be asking is not whether the buffalo was an accidental star, but rather, who is actually profiting off of our collective distraction? Keep asking those questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.